what this president has been very clear about is that he doesn't like the interest rate policy of the Federal Reserve. He puts that fully on the chair of the Federal Reserve. So there are two things that can be true at once. One is that he doesn't like Powell's approach to rates being, too late at the beginning of COVID, and thinks that our rates should come down now. And then the second part is to see that the second part is that the Open Markets Committee is dominated by Biden appointees. So even if you remove the Fed chair, you still have an Open Markets Committee that has a different view than the president does. And you're talking about the Fed chair's term of office ending at the beginning of next year. So I think what we're seeing today is the president highlighting the fact that inflation is come way down, that the tariffs haven't had a dramatic negative impact on inflation counter to expectations, and is trying to drive his economic message in light of what we know is the inflation print this morning. So all these things are complicated, and there's a lot going on here. But the key message that the president's trying to drive is an economic one, not a personnel conversation.
Well, I'd like to ask you about a separate live conversation happening as we speak, Mr. Chairman, on Capitol Hill right now as the House is moving toward reconsidering the rule that failed yesterday, a procedural hurdle to advance 3 different pieces of crypto legislation as part of Crypto Week. The rule that failed yesterday was because of a handful of lawmakers who actually convened with the president at the White House last night, a meeting which the president emerged from saying, we have a deal. They're now going to vote to pass the rule. And indeed, the chair of the Freedom Caucus, Andy Harris, confirmed that on X a few minutes ago, that they will be voting in favor of the rule today. When do we break out of this pattern of people voting no initially, President Trump stepping in, and they ultimately decide to change their minds? What's the point of the exercise?
That is the point of the exercise, which is I'm going to stop your agenda, President Trump. You're going to bring me to the Oval Office. I will say to you, I love you, and I didn't want to hurt you. Give me assurances about some extraneous random thing, and then they vote yes. So what they want is the attention and love of the sun, the moon, and the stars. And right now in the Republican ecosystem, that is in the person of Donald J. Trump, who controls this party unlike any other politician in modern American history. He has control over his party and thereby the policymaking on Capitol Hill. So it is a messy way to do it. It is very embarrassing for congressional leadership to have to send members over to the White House for the president to close them again. But that's the process that we're going through. And inevitably, what they've shown, what policymakers on Capitol Hill have shown, especially the Freedom Caucus, is that they will cave, they will fold, and they must do that in the room with the person of Donald Trump, but they will inevitably fold for no change in policy. And that's what's happening once again with crypto. That happened on reconciliation. It's happened probably a half dozen times so far this legislative year, and will continue.
Chair McHenry, is it your sense then that this actually gets through this week? Do we actually see Crypto Week ending in this victory lap for crypto advocates?
Yes, we do. We see a bipartisan vote for the stablecoin bill, the Genius Act, and we see less of a bipartisan vote because of the maneuvers of the Freedom Caucus for the market structure bill, which brings clarity to 93% of the crypto marketplace. That's the bigger bill that will have to come later. But the stablecoin regime will have a nice bipartisan vote this week, which will show that crypto does have massive power within both of the parties, much more so in the Republican Party than the Democratic Party, but a significant group within the Democratic Party are pro-crypto.
Well, to follow up, Chair McHenry, how much more work does need to be done on that market structure bill to get it through to win the support it needs?
Well, my colleagues and I worked very hard for the last 5 years on crypto in the House of Representatives. And so we've got a pretty well-baked approach. Policymakers on both sides of the aisle who are engaged in policymaking, that's a smaller group, but they are well-versed in the set of policies that are in the Clarity Act or last Congress called Fit 21. That is the market structure bill that brings clarity to commodities and securities and defines a digital asset and a means of exchange. So House members are much further along on this than Senate members. And so the Senate is going to have to take a lot of time to actually understand this policy, the trade-offs to go through this, and then go through the stages of grief before they can get to actually voting on a market structure bill. Hopefully that happens this fall, but it's going to take longer than expectations, unfortunately.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we just have a minute left. Is that effort in the Senate, knowing it would require Democratic buy-in, potentially disrupted by a rescissions vote we could see later today or tomorrow that Democrats obviously don't want to see? Do you see that disrupting potentially the appropriations process and any further bipartisan effort on crypto or other things?
Yes, I think when Chuck Schumer got played by President Trump and Elon Musk in the Doge process, that kept the government open at the beginning of the year. I don't think Schumer and the Democratic Senate will play the same rules by the same rules going into the fall. I think the likelihood of a government shutdown is rather high, given the environment we're currently in, highly partisan environment we're currently in, and that will curtail a lot of serious policymaking that could otherwise be done.